The math that explains how a bent handsaw makes music is the exact same math they use in quantum physics. Handsaws have been around for about 5,000 years. The Egyptians had them 3,500 years ago, originally made of bone or flint, then copper, then bronze, then iron. But iron wasn't meaningfully stronger than any of those until the metallurgy caught up with it. For thousands of years, a guy would stand there and hand chisel every tooth because it was the only way to get the accuracy. That changed in the 1650s when rolled steel came out of Sheffield, England. Sheffield steel dominated the market worldwide, including in America, where fees on American-made saws were so heavy they couldn't compete. They finally had to get tariffs installed so Sheffield saws wouldn't own the American market entirely. The teeth are what make a saw. A rip saw has teeth at 90 degrees to the blade, so they chisel out a path along the grain. A crosscut saw has narrower teeth that slice across the grain. Use one instead of the other, and you will cause your wood to chip and break. There are also raker teeth, which pull the shavings out of the cut while the cutter teeth do the slicing. Every tooth is set at an angle to the blade so the saw doesn't get stuck, because otherwise the width of the cut would be the same as the width of the saw and you couldn't get it back out. In 1833, Henry Diston left England for America and started what became the Keystone Saw Works in Philadelphia. By 1872, he had it established in the Tacony neighborhood, and at their peak, they had 4,000 employees making 9 million saw blades a year. You can praise him or criticize him for this because it was a pretty common practice. He built a town for his workers, put in a church and schools and row houses, and it all seemed fine except the money you made was factory money and it was only spendable at the factory store. Quit your job and you lost your house. Today, that area is mostly a ghost town set aside as a historical district, and the successor operation makes around 2,000 saws a year with a couple dozen employees. The antique Diston saws, though, often bring $200 at auction, and not because they're antiques. The carpenters who buy them argue you cannot find saws of that quality today. Musical saws peaked in the 1920s. The sound is wavy and hard to describe, but it's almost ghost-like, ethereal. And with the advent of radio, you can see how that sound wouldn't sound like anything else. Somebody figured out you could take a violin bow, drag it across a bent saw, and get something out of it that didn't exist anywhere else. They studied musical saws at some college, and the math that describes the music they make is the same math they use in quantum physics to explain how an electrical charge travels down the edges of an object instead of through it. When you play a saw, you have to bend it in a specific way, and that bend traps the vibrations along a specific route. The math to describe that is the exact same math they use in quantum mechanics to explain how electricity gets trapped on the edge of a transistor. Who sits around and comes up with that comparison? Probably a PhD candidate who had to find something that had never been studied in that particular way before. And while we all sit around thinking that's useless information, those people may be the ones who develop the next thing that changes everything.